is John Wick.
Ever wondered how hard Keanu Reeves, the star of the John Wick series, worked to make the action series look real? He broke bones, got hurt, and worked through a high fever. And that's just a few of the crazy behind-the-scenes stories of this awesome movie series. In this video, we're going to take you on a wild ride through the making of John Wick. We'll tell you about actors who worked through the pain, how real weapons were used, and even about a sad event when an actor died during filming. So if you're a fan of John Wick, you won't want to miss this video. Let's start with a surprising fact about the very beginning of the John Wick series. Did you know the original script was titled Scorn? Since Keanu Reeves kept getting the name wrong, the creators settled with renaming the film to John Wick. The creator, Derek Kolstad, named the unstoppable hitman and his wife after his maternal grandparents, John and Helen Wick. The original script of John Wick was much darker and more violent. The first draft had John Wick killing over 200 people. The filmmakers eventually decided to lessen the violence, but there are still some pretty brutal scenes in the movies. It may come off as a surprise, but John Wick was initially supposed to be a low-budget indie film. However, it eventually caught the attention of major studios. This allowed the filmmakers to increase the budget and make the movie even more ambitious. The John Wick movies are some of the most realistic action movies ever made. The filmmakers went to great lengths to make sure that the action choreography in the film was as realistic as possible. In fact, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, the film's directors, hired former stuntmen and martial artists to train the actors. The actors had to follow a strict routine while training for the films. You may not believe this, but Keanu Reeves, the protagonist of the John Wick films, did 90% of his own stunts. He underwent rigorous training in jiu-jitsu and judo for 3 months just to fit into his role. Not only that, but he also trained in the use of firearms, both real and prop. He also suffered from a back injury on the very first day of training. Reeves also studied the films of Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, two of the most famous martial artists in the world, to learn how they used martial arts in their movies. He included some of their techniques into his own infamous gun fu fighting style. Remember the insanely intense nightclub fight scene from the first John Wick movie? He filmed this not just with a cold, but with a fever peaking at 104 degrees Fahrenheit. While most of us would be curled up under a blanket, sipping corn syrup, Keanu was out there, throwing punches, dodging bullets, and creating pure cinematic magic. But wait, it doesn't stop there. This scene, which is one of the longest and most complex in the movie, had all its stunt work and choreography learned and memorized by Reeves on the very day it was filmed. Here's another surprising fact from the first John Wick movie. The actor Keanu Reeves broke his toe while filming the club fight scene. He kept on acting even though he was in pain, and the filmmakers decided to keep the scene in the film. Similarly, in another fight scene, when Wick fights the Russian gangsters in the Continental Hotel, Keanu Reeves breaks his hand during filming. He kept on filming though, and eventually the scene made it into the movie. These shots show Reeves' dedication to the role. To make the violence seem more natural, actual knives, guns, and ammunition were used in fight scenes. Again, this was a controversial decision, but the directors felt this was necessary to portray a realistic fight. Now let's talk about the set for the movie. Stahelski and David decided to build a working Continental Hotel set in New York City. This working set was built at Gold Coast Studios on Long Island, New York. The set included the hotel lobby, the bar, and the Continental Hotel's famous Red Circle nightclub. The working Continental Hotel set was used for several scenes in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, including the scene where John Wick fights the High Table's assassins in the hotel lobby. The set was also used for the scene where John Wick meets with Winston in the hotel bar. Since Stahelski and Leitch are both former stuntmen, they wanted to shoot realistic and immersive fight scenes. In fact, before becoming a film director, Stahelski was the fearless stunt double for Reeves' in Oscar-winning film The Matrix. Fast forward to 2014, and Stahelski's sitting in the director's chair for John Wick. For these reasons, most of the fight scenes were shot in long takes. Long takes are difficult techniques to master, but they can be very effective in creating a sense of reality. For instance, the hallway fight scenes in the first John Wick movie and the club fight scene in the second John Wick movie are examples of long takes.
How about like this? But I don't shoot.
Interestingly enough, since the action scenes were violent, the filmmakers of the first John Wick movie had to get permission from the New York City Police Department to film the fight scenes in the movie. Now, let's take a look at some of the hidden details you might have missed in John Wick Chapter 2.
Hello, John. I understand if you're upset.
Remember that incredible rooftop garden scene? This very same location had its 15 minutes of fame in none other than Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie. This rooftop has seen more action than some characters. The scene was filmed in one day, involving a large crew of stuntmen and extras. Moving on, while filming John Wick 3, both Keanu Reeves and Halle Berry suffered injuries. Reeves got bitten by a dog when their characters were training their dogs together. The dogs were supposed to be playing tug of war, but one of the dogs, Yoshi, got too excited and bit Reeves' hand. He was not seriously injured, but the bite left a noticeable mark on his hand. On the other hand, Berry was training with Reeves when she fell and landed on her ribs. Later, she got diagnosed with 3 broken ribs and had to wear a corset for several weeks, but she was still able to finish filming without any further injuries. Another interesting fact is about the actor who played Viggo Tarasov, Michael Inkfist. He suffered a deadly injury on the set of John Wick. His ear was almost entirely cut off. The late Inkfist had to get 80 stitches. Anyways, he continued filming the movie. His character was eventually killed by John Wick at the end of the first John Wick movie as punishment for his son Yosef Tarasov's crimes. You probably didn't know this, but Michael Inkfist died of lung cancer in 2017 before the third John Wick movie was released. His death was written into the script and his character was killed off. A funny anecdote during the shooting of John Wick 3 was when the crew found almost 1,000 rogue cats roaming on the streets of Morocco. The production team had to hire 30 cat wranglers to handle feral cats. You may have overlooked the fact, but John Wick Chapter 4 is shot in 4 different locations: New York City, Paris, Berlin, and Jordan. Let's go back to the desert chase scene. Do you remember the aerial view of the desert? The King of Jordan, being a fan of the John Wick movies, was kind enough to lend his helicopter to the film crew to shoot the sunrise shot you see in the film. Now, let's talk about how long the film could have been. The movie's directors, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, originally made the first John Wick movie 140 minutes long. That's like watching 2 full episodes of your favorite TV show and then some, but the final movie was cut down to 101 minutes. That means 39 minutes, or nearly 2/3 of another episode, was left out. So what got removed? It was mostly scenes of John Wick exploring cool places. Do you remember the fight scene between John Wick and Viggo? It originally ran much longer, but the filmmakers realized that John Wick is the ultimate hitman. He'd take out Viggo in a heartbeat, so they trimmed that down too. Moreover, producer Basil Ivanek revealed that the movie's opening scene was originally 3 times longer. Let's talk numbers now.
Sacred car.
The John Wick 4 has grossed over a total of $432.2 million, whereas collectively, the John Wick films have topped $1 billion in the global box office. But let's not forget, behind these impressive numbers is a movie that thrilled us, moved us, and gave us some of the most iconic action sequences in cinema history. After all, what's a box office hit without a heart-thumping story? And that's a wrap for today. Don't forget to like, share, and smash the subscribe button. Stay tuned for more movie magic and madness. Until next time.
Hey, your family does.
Please pray for me.